Welcome back, everyone, to the Coach Approach podcast with myself, Dom Dorico, and my little princess sidekick, Phil. Today's topic is a big one, I think, and I think a lot of you will be very interested in this. I'm going to be deep diving into Phil's life, Phil's past, what he did when he was younger, what made him become the coach he is today, well, and the man he is today. And I think it's a very interesting story. Things that I probably don't know myself because I said to Phil, I really want to delve into your past, and what's happened and what's made you the person you are now. And I think it's going to pique a lot of interest for you guys that are listening. But first of all, mate, how are you?
Very good, thank you, bro. How are you? Mate, we say this all the time, yeah, but I feel like we have not spoken for ages. It's literally just these are our catch-ups now. But
Yeah, it literally is because you're so busy, mate. I barely see you because I'm in the gym really early. Obviously, you're PTing. I was supposed to do this podcast last week, but I was honestly on the sofa
you were
dying.
what was wrong with you?
I don't know. I got a virus. I think it was James from the gym. On Friday, he came into the gym. He's been really ill, and he was still ill. He was like, "Yeah, I'm still finished. I'm still at the end of it." And he goes, "Can I join in with you on your tricep
Man.
exercise?" And I was like, "Fuck's sake!" I was like, "All right then." And I could just, when you just tell, I feel like I'm getting ill straight away. And then that afternoon, I had to take a nap and I was wiped. And then I had to go, and then I went to watch Paul Smith. And then I had my mate Stag in Eastbourne. So I had some alcohol and all these things that just destroyed my body when the virus, I think, kicked in. Um, and yeah, I posted on Tuesday about never being ill, which I never am. And I was
I remember that
gone.
as well. You jinxed it yourself.
Oh, mate, the amount of messages I got, and then plus we're getting their house renovated. That was a pain in the arse. Well, it still is. It's nearly done. So combination of illnesses, not being able to train as well because I'm injured, the weather being awful. It's been a tough 10 days, tough couple of
Mm.
weeks.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I've stayed away from you then. And do you know what? Like, something I've learned is to tell my clients, if you're ill, please don't come to the gym. And
Mm,
last year, I was getting so ill all the time. There's so much going around.
I remember.
When they're coming into the gym, I'm spotting them, they're breathing all over me, then I'm getting ill, then the next person, and I'm getting ill again. And since I've said to people, please don't come in if you're even a little bit sick. I've been fine all year, touch wood.
Yeah. Do you know, there's so many people. I think I've got about over 12 clients, 10, 12 clients that are ill at the moment. Friends that have been ill. My mate Max had the same thing. It's like a form of COVID. Like I had my appetite, I was eating fine, but my back was hurting, my body was hurting, my headache. I had a really sore throat, felt like razor blades. Um, and yeah, then I had to live on meal deals because we had no kitchen. So I literally had meal deal for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So it wasn't I was still having some fruit, but it was, it was awful. So yeah, guys, when you are ill, make sure you double up on your fruit, hydration, vegetables when you can, and plenty
Lemon
of
and
sleep.
honey. I was telling a client of mine that I was ill the other day because they were like, "Oh, I've been so ill. I've just been eating so shit," and I'm like, "That's what you don't want to be doing when you're ill. Obviously, it's like it's more convenient, and you might crave it more, but it's just going to keep you ill for longer because you're just putting shit into your body. That's not going to help you."
I know, yeah. I did have some Nutella and bagel as well, to be fair, when I was eating. But I think as well, I've been running myself
Could
to
be
the
worse.
ground a bit. I work 6 days a week, and the last holiday I had was September in Egypt with Naomi.
Yeah.
So Naomi's like, you need to just take a week like break or go away. We need to go away. And I'm like, no, I want to do this. I've got all this. And, I need to listen to my own advice a little bit. And I think I need a little bit of like a holiday break.
Mhm. I'll go away. I'll go away really soon. I'm going away in about 9 days.
Oh, yeah. Where?
2 weeks back to Africa, bro.
Ah,
Back to the motherland, and
back to
obviously
the
today the podcast that we're doing, which obviously after us speaking, I was like a little bit hesitant to do, but uh, that's something we'll be like diving into a little bit when
yeah.
we start speaking. But
So I've got some questions down on that I've came up with throughout the week of what I kind of wanted to know and what I think people would want to know as well.
I don't know what's coming, by the way.
Yeah.
So just for the people listening, I don't know what he's going to ask me. I don't know what's coming,
There could
but
be some touchy subjects, I think. But I think, you be as honest as you want and open as you want, mate. With whatever, I'm gonna ask. As I said, Phil doesn't know what I'm gonna ask. So, I'm gonna ask a very easy and simple one at the beginning, mate. Like, what was your upbringing like? Like how and obviously you're going back to the motherland in 9 days. Like, What did you live there? Did you live in Africa first? Like, what was your upbringing like?
So I was born here. Uh, always. So I was born in the UK, born in Red Hill, which is like near Crawley. Um, and then when I was 7, I moved to Africa for a couple of years. Came back when I was nearly 10. But yeah, I did the whole boarding school over there, went to school over there. But like for most people that wouldn't understand like growing up in an African household. So like if you've grown up in an African household, you'll know that your African parent will always threaten you with being with like sending you back home and things like that, or sending you to Africa if you're misbehaving. Um, but that actually happened to me. So well, it wasn't because I was misbehaving, but for certain reasons, I had to leave here on my own, go live in Africa. I went to a boarding school for like 3 years, and as scary as
On
that
your
must.
own, on your own, or did you go back and live with family that you
So
had there?
initially, I was on my own. Uh, Before my mum moved to the UK, she had my older sister, obviously different dad, older brother, and then me and my brother over here. Um, so I flew on my own, but I ended up going to stay with her for a little while, and then I ended up in a boarding school, like first few weeks in, from what I can recollect. But yeah, so pretty much I was in a boarding school, no
What,
family.
what's boarding school like in Africa?
So this is the point I was trying to get to, is that like for those who wouldn't understand it, it sounds like quite a scary prospect, like being sent to a foreign country, especially an African country where the life is so different to what we used to over here. Um, but it was hard, don't get me wrong, compared to what life's like here, what school's like here, what the food is like, how they treat you over there. It's what made me be able to adapt to any circumstances that get thrown at me, because yeah, it's tough, but you get used to it, and then
Why
that
is it
becomes.
tough? In what way is it tough over there?
I'll give you some examples. So, as a 7-year-old kid brought up here, everything's done for you. Your washing, your food, even washing yourself. Like you'll be, I've done about 7-year-olds, but your mum's still doing all that for you. So over there, you have to learn to be self-sufficient at that age. So you're washing your own clothes by hand. You're like even jeans. Do you know how hard a pair of jeans is to wash? And they're inspecting how you're washing it as well. So it's not just um yeah, throw it in the water and you're done. You have to wash everything to a high standard, bathe yourself to a high standard. They would literally watch you bathe. If you didn't do it properly, you'd get smacked for it. You'd have to make your own bed, fold your own clothes, iron your own clothes. Um,
At the age of 7, 8, 9.
the age of 7, yeah, at the age of 7, and then as an example, and what showed me what I was in for. Bear in mind, I never get told how long I was going to be there for. So for almost like 3 years, I'm being told you're going back home in 2 weeks. So I never knew when I was coming back. Uh, they My first day at boarding school. One thing that I really remember is at school in the UK, you'd write on a line, you'd skip a line, and then write on the next one. Then you'd skip a line, write on the next one, and I remember that's how I was writing in my workbooks. My first class, first day in boarding school over there, and then after my first lesson, the teachers read through all our books, and what would happen is any spelling mistakes you got wrong, you'd get hit for it. So they'd underline any spelling you got wrong, and then one by one, she'd look through everyone's books while you sat there in silence, and then one by one, she'd call you to the front,
Hit
and
you
then
in front of everyone
hit you in front of everyone.
with a ruler or just her hand or
Be a big stick. There used to be a teacher. I remember his name so clearly was Mr. Wilberforce, and even, even that name holds some fear. Do you know what I'm saying?
Sorry, yeah, I know I'm laughing, and you're like going through some trauma of Mr.
So
Wilbur.
so he was the scariest teacher I'd ever say I've ever come across. And when it was time for him to come teach us maths lessons, he would, bro, I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, he would come in with a stick bigger than him. He'd have to carry it into the door like this because he was too tall to get through the door frame, and he'd have to carry it on his shoulder, and that's what he'd hit us with.
Wow.
Um, and it was taller. It was taller than the ceiling. from floor to ceiling. You'd have to lean it sideways because it's too tall to even be stood upright in the classroom. Yeah. Um, so my first day there, teacher's looking through my books, and she says, "You think you can come from the UK and waste our paper?" She's like, "Come here," and then she starts smacking me for the amount of lines that I missed, saying I was wasting paper. But I didn't understand what's going on. I'm thinking, this is what I got. This is what I've been taught back at
Yeah.
home. And then,
So there's no like giving you a chance of this is how it's done here.
so do you want to know? This is a little bit off topic here, but when it comes to race, obviously my mum's African and my dad's from the UK. Yeah, so I've never really fit in anywhere because over here I'm a black boy. Over there I was the white boy,
Oh
and
yeah, I didn't really think of it like that.
that's it. So they always treated me differently over there because I was the white boy. They thought so. They didn't really like me much. I'm not saying that it's the same here, but obviously growing up as well, which is something we could get into, is um, especially when coming back, people would also treat me sort of differently or race be a little bit racist or whatever because of my skin color over here. So I would say that I wouldn't say they treated me like hit me anymore because of my skin color, but they did always used to say, "Don't let like don't be easy on him because he's a white boy," things like that.
Really? Is there any words they used to call you because you were technically like the white boy there?
Do you know what? There wasn't actually
Mm.
not in a negative way, but
Yeah.
uh, anytime they'd see you, they'd call you Mzungu, which means like white boy, and then yeah, they'd chase you. They'd have kids chasing you down the road, kids chasing a car because they want to get a look at you.
Was
Um,
was it dangerous around the areas in Africa, like walking around where you lived?
Not really, but do you know what? This is something I've never spoken about, yeah, like publicly or anything like that. But this is a bit of a mad story. So where I lived, and obviously Africa's still like quite religious. They practice like weird dark arts and stuff like that, yeah. And my brother would back me up on this as well. There was this guy that came. He lived sort of near us, but he'd never spoken to us. And I think it's because he was waiting for his moment to get us alone, if that makes sense. So I'm about 8 now. My brother's 7 or 6. And when he knew my oldest sister, who was obviously our guardian at the time, was out, he knew she was out. So he's approached us. He's sat there talking to us. And he asked us, if you could have anything, what would it be? And I said, I want to be able to fly home back to the UK. And then my brother said something crazy like he wants to be invisible or something like that. And he said, I can take you somewhere to go and like make these things happen for you. If you want to fly home, you'll be able to fly home today. Like basically saying he'd give us like magic powers. Obviously, we're kids, so we don't know any better.
Mm.
And he's walked us through these forests, walked us through some villages, walked us through some mad places for hours, like all day. It felt like we were walking. And someone was following us. And we get to this house literally in the middle of nowhere, like a hut. And all I remember was there was thousands of like sandals outside, like flip flops. Um, and then as he's about to walk us in there, the person that followed us luckily recognized us because we were the only like white people living in the area,
Yeah.
and he knew who my older sister was. So he's followed us to this house, and it turned out he'd taken us to a witch doctor to sacrifice us because they believe that white people's bones have magic powers and healing powers. Um, bear in mind, this was about 20, like, over 20 years ago. So those beliefs were still like quite strong out there in those times. Does that make sense? And they still are today as well.
Yeah. What? And how did he get you out?
He, I can't even really remember. He just said like, "Lee, what are you doing with these boys? What are you doing with these boys?" And then he's like, we didn't actually make it inside. He stopped us before we got
Oh,
in,
okay. Yeah.
and then started calling on people that were around, telling them what he was about to do to us. So yeah, he was going to apparently sacrifice us to this witch doctor to chop us up for our bones,
Yes.
to put in a potion.
And we wouldn't be here right now talking about it.
So I remember the next day he's got arrested, but obviously out there getting arrested is slightly different to over here. Like it's more like military police. So they had him tied up in our front room with literally with wires, and they're whipping him, trying to make him confess about what he was going to do. So he's tied up,
Wow.
arms behind his back like this,
Yeah.
and then his legs tied up behind him as well. And then 3 officers are stood there whipping him with cables, wires, beating him,
In
and
front of
obviously
you.
in front of us.
Wow. As an 8-year-old kid, 7-year-old
As
kid.
a kid watching that.
How did that make you feel?
Do you know what? Don't really remember feeling anything, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah. You just remember the event. It
I
just
just remember the event, but yeah, like anyone that knows me knows that like things like that aren't a big deal. Like I'll just see
why?
it.
Yeah. So I'll move on to. I won't say. I'll say I have got a question, but I'll save it for later of why you are like that. Um. So you're in Africa until you're 10, 11, and then you get sent back home. Well, back to the UK.
Yeah.
Um. And then what was it like growing up from 10 till old? Did you experience racism? Did you experience anything?
Uh, do you know what? I did because can you hear me still? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I just had to plug my laptop in. Um, yeah. So yeah, I would say I was always a good kid until I came back
Okay.
because there could be many reasons for that, but obviously the change of culture. It sounds quite funny when I tell people, yeah, that when I came back, I spoke with an African accent
Yeah.
because no one could understand me speaking like this over there. And obviously they'd never heard our accents. Like people wouldn't really watch TV. That like there's say like in the village, no one had TVs in their house. There's like one little sort of like not necessarily a hut, but like a wooden sort of like shed that was quite big enough for people to all go in there and watch TV, but you'd have to pay. But it'd be like like a tiny little TV. But that'd be the only time most people like around the village could watch TV. Then does that make sense? So
Yeah.
they hadn't really seen white people heard the English accent, so they couldn't really understand me. So I started having to speak like them for them to be able to understand me. But then before we know it, that's how we spoke as well. And then when I came back, I spoke with an African accent for a bit, but I got mine back, but my little brother didn't, and I'd have to tell him stop speaking like that because he'd be like round
Oh,
my mate speaking with an
yeah,
African.
yeah.
And then like like I was saying, I was always like a good kid, but for some reason I just came back like angry. And I remember being in school when I first came back. I'm doing things 10 times worse than I could have ever done over there. And the teachers, there was no discipline. Does that make sense? The teacher like, right, that's a tick on the board with what I would have got caned severely for over there.
So did you ever think, oh, I can get away with loads of shit here now? This is a walk in the park.
Yeah, because there wasn't any consequences. Like a tick on the board or getting sent to another classroom for disruptive behavior or answering back or even swearing at a teacher
So your
is
behavior started getting out of hand as you were growing up into your teens.
mhm, for
Did
sure.
you mix with the wrong crowd, or what was your group of friends like?
No, my friends were good. To be fair, it was only when I become a teenager that I sort of like mixed in with the wrong crowd. Um, Back to like the racism thing quickly. I remember a kid in school calling me the M word, but I'd never heard that word before. Even all the years like living in Africa, I'd never heard it. And then someone called it, and I came home and I asked my mum what it was, and she said, who said that word?" And I was like, "Oh, some kid in school." Found out what it meant, went back in school, and I punched him, and that was my first ever fight in school.
Really? How old were you?
About 10 or 11.
10, 11, yeah.
And then all through secondary school is the same. Yeah, like I said, I won't go into specifics on names but
Yeah,
all
yeah.
through secondary school, yeah, the
Okay.
maddest, the maddest racist stuff happened. I'd walk into the school changing rooms and school toilets, and there'd be my name written there with racist stuff, blah blah blah, all on the walls and that. Then I'd be fighting over that, and yeah, I'd say like that was the only reason I'd ever fight in school. Really, was if like people were racist, which was yeah quite a lot to be fair. Um, and then yeah, coming into like being a young teenager, I I would say like looking back in hindsight now, obviously my mum was a single mum. She never ever had like a partner, never like introduced a man around us, which like I respect and rate as well because she didn't just want to have like random men in and out of our lives. Does that make sense? Influencing us and whatever. But then as I become a teenager, I was thinking about it now, and I was speaking to someone about this the other day. I was about 13, hanging around with 21, 24 year olds, and not getting in till 1 in the morning after being out in the street with 24 year olds, which isn't much younger than me now. And I think, and even when I was 24, I couldn't think, oh yeah, I'm gonna hang around this 13-year-old and have him out with us doing this and getting drunk with us. Um, but in hindsight, I think where I never really had a male figure, like older role model, even as like a kid. Like say, my mum brought me up. Then I lived in Africa with my sister, etc. I
Do you
was
mind?
only around women, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So I think subconsciously, I liked and enjoyed being around older males because they were like male role models to me, whether they were good or bad. Does that make sense?
yeah, for sure. And do you mind me asking quite a sensitive question?
Go on.
What happened to your father or your dad, or what was happening there?
Oh, he's still alive. I first met him when I was like 18. Um, he was an alcoholic and quite violent. Uh, yeah, I won't go into specifics about what he did and why like my mum had to leave and stuff. But yeah, obviously bad stuff happened, and just never met him. My mum left him when she was pregnant with my brother, and he never met my younger brother, if that makes sense. But he only met me.
Hmm.
Then we were in contact around, like from around the age of like 18 to 21. Met him when I was like 18, but didn't really like him. Like you could just tell why my mum didn't stick around, if that makes sense. Because yeah, you just know that with him around, he would have just been like a negative influence compared to how like my mum's been, if that makes sense. So, but yeah, it's one of those ones like he's still alive somewhere, but again, I don't feel any emotion towards it or feel any kind of reason why I need to reach out to him or why I'd want him around, if that makes sense. Like,
Does he live close?
no, he lives in Wales, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
But yeah, you know, like how some people are like, "Where were you? Why have you not been there?" Blah, blah. I've never really been like that. Like, yeah, just I don't really care.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
No, no,
but yeah,
I never knew that, so that's why I wanted to ask.
do you know what it is? It's one of those ones where like I can't force a relationship with someone who, if you're not someone who I identify with or feel like they need to be around, I just won't. So
Hmm.
like even when I met him, I wasn't like, why weren't you there? Why did you do this? I was just like, yeah, hey, like, you're right, mate.
Yeah,
Sort of thing.
but yeah,
And then yeah, over time I was just like, you're not my kind of person I even want to talk to or be around. So there's no point. Like nothing even happened for us to not be in contact again from the last time we spoke, which has probably been about 7 years or something. But yeah, like I have him on Facebook, but we just don't talk.
okay.
But and it's not out of anger, it's not out of sadness, it's not out of I hate you or whatever. It's just you're just a
In
stranger.
jail. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, in
just a
jail.
stranger. Do you know what I mean? So yeah,
Okay, mate.
um, yeah,
Yeah, that's tough, mate. But obviously, yeah, that's I never knew that, and that's quite like interesting to kind of hear from your side of what happened. Um,
mm,
so I was going to lead on to another question, which may be again a bit sensitive. So answer it as you are, as you wish. Um, People may know that you may, at a certain age, have got in a bit of trouble.
hmm
Um, is there wanted to elaborate on how it got to that point when you were younger?
yeah. Do you know what? I know what you're specifically referring to, and like you already know at the start. I was like, do we have to talk about that? Do we have to mention?
You can talk about as much as you want. As like I said, there's things that I'm happy for you to pass on, and this is an open. This is what a very different podcast than what we normally do.
Yeah,
And I wanted to see what you would wanted to. Yeah.
yeah, of course. So, yeah, obviously, when I was younger, uh, again, goes back to I was younger, hanging around with older people, doing things I shouldn't have done. Started seeing things I probably shouldn't have done at such a young age. Like 13-year-olds should be sat indoors playing PlayStation or climbing trees and that, and I'm out with my hood up on the street till 2, 3 in the morning on school nights.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what? Bless my mum as well, because she used to work nights and long hours and stuff. So it was quite easy for me to like sneak out or just be out, and she wouldn't know, but she'd just be thinking I'm indoors. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
And then obviously, yeah, started getting involved in things I shouldn't have at quite a young age, and getting arrested numerous times. But again, yeah, obviously it's not good, but I just see it as character building. But yeah, obviously the event that we're talking about in this instance is at the age of nearly 21. I got sent to prison, obviously. And do you know what? When I speak to people about it, they're like, "Oh, that must have been so hard. How did you cope? How did you like come out the other side of it better? Nobody's able to do that." Things like that. Obviously, it's never good to have to put yourself and your family in situations where you have to go through those things. But for me personally, it was the biggest blessing in disguise, because that's where I really gave myself the time to find myself, discover my inner strength and power, and be able to see things from an outside point of view without any outside distractions, and be able to develop that like mental strength to be able to know what it is that I want to do with my life. Does that make sense? Before, if I ever felt moments of like anxiety or boredom or just like, you know, that thing where it's like you're sat on your own and you hate your own thoughts, so you'll just hang out with or chill with whoever is around you at the time, and it might not even be people you even like, or people that you know are just like scumbags, but you'll just go be with them anyway because you'd rather be anywhere but by yourself.
Yeah.
And that was sort of me. Does that make sense? Because I didn't have much going for me. I didn't have a job. I was just like drinking, smoking weed, all of that stuff. And yeah, that time away from all that made me realize, do you know what? It's fine. It's fine to be on your own. You're gonna grow more and find yourself more and develop mental strength by just being on your own for a little bit. So I sort of embraced it as what it was. And when I remember when I got sentenced to 6 years, I remember like I wasn't upset, wasn't crying, wasn't going mad about it. And my barrister was like, "I must say, I commend you on how well you've took it. I've never seen no one your age just handle that, just being told that that's what the next few years are going to look like for you so well." And I was like, "Do you know what? I believe everything happens for a reason, and this is the reason." So I was like, "So it is what it is."
So
And
yeah. Sorry, continue.
a few years later, again, people always, when people mention it, they're like, back to my point what I was saying about, oh, people say, "How did you do it?" Blah blah blah. That's where fitness for me started. I wasn't into the gym before. I'd only ever really played football. I'd never trained in the gym, and that's where, like, my first year in, I started training. I remember like a few months in,
In prison.
yeah, in
Yeah.
prison. So like I wasn't training. I still had that same mindset. Like I was thinking, yeah, when I get out, I'm gonna be doing the same, but just better and more smarter and stuff like that. And I remember someone saying to me, "Mate, you're so skinny, bro. Like you're the skinniest guy I've ever seen." Like I was so thin. And then that just switched something on in me, and I said, "No, I'm never getting told that again." And that first year, that's when I made a New Year's resolution to quit smoking, start eating better, and start training. And
And you
then,
could do that all in prison?
mhm,
Wow.
yeah, you could do all that. The gym, you're quite limited on how much you could train, but yeah, because we're only really getting gym twice, maximum 3 times a week. But you could work out by yourself, like on the exercise yard or on the wing or whatever. So I'd always be there. If we didn't have gym that day, I was always doing pull-ups, or I'd fill up water bottles to use as weights and things like that. Um, and then what I found was once I started training, I became obsessed with seeing the growth. But then once I started seeing more growth, I was like, cool, what can I do to make it even more, make it even better? So that's when I started eating better. And people don't believe you. And I feel like you can probably agree with this as well. People don't believe you and believe themselves how much you can sort of, your life will change once you just start by working and changing yourself.
Uh-huh.
Because once you start working on yourself, you stop filling your body with shit. You stop filling your mind with shit. You stop treating your body as if you hate it by polluting it. You start treating it like you love it, and you start seeing the adaptations that your body makes. When you start treating it better, your mind starts to change as well, and you start to see like the world from a different point of view. But it all starts with how you treat yourself first. Does that make sense? So what I believe, and this is purely from my experience, it might be different for other people, but how you treat yourself will externally change like how you view the rest of the world and how the outside world looks like to you as well. So it's that thing where we can both be watching the same event or same movie or same video or same clip or whatever, but we're seeing it from two totally different perspectives. Because like, does that make sense? And it's the same in regards to, again, from my point of view, once you start treating your body better, your mindset just changes and you stop looking at things negatively. You start seeing the good in things. And also, it comes down to the pain you feel from training as well. And this is where it relates to my experiences as a child, as a teenager. Like, I'd say at this point in my life right now is the best I've ever had things. It's the most comfortable I've ever been. I'm no stranger to like hard times or conflict or bad situations. And I'd say it's only been like the last 2 years which have been like the most settled I've ever been in my life and most comfortable and had it the easiest, if that makes sense. But uh, I don't regret or feel bad about those situations that ever happened when I was a child, because same as when you walk into the gym, and again, another reason why I love fitness, like no one's lifting a heavy weight with a smile on their face, or like it's painful,
Yeah.
but that pain leads to growth.
Yeah.
And when I think about anything that might have ever happened in the past, all that pain at that time led to the growth now later, and me being able to have the mental toughness or resilience. And like, people talk about mental health, and this isn't to offend anyone or anything like that, but mental health can't live in me. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah.
Even if the worst of things happen, it's not a bad thing, because I just see it as like, I've been through worse already.
Did you see my story yesterday? I put up that I read. Life is 10% what happens to you, 90% how you react to it.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. And I was gonna that kind of led me to not that quote, but what you were going through is so. Do you think you being sent back to Africa, being quite tough and the way it was living in Africa, made you the person that then came back to the UK, got into trouble? That was the turning point that then led you into the character that you had as a teenager, doing all these things, the person that you had become in that era, that chapter of your life, which then
Mm-hmm.
led you to prison. And then was it just one person telling you how skinny you were that then changed everything from that chapter to then the new chapter of this health and wealth kind of person that you are now?
Potentially, like I wouldn't say that was the only like determining factor, being told that I was skinny and whatnot, but because I've always known that regardless of what I was doing, and even from a young age, that I was destined to do like good things, if that makes sense. Like, I never wanted to be average, whether that was just like having an average body or being average, if that makes sense. But I've never wanted to like just settle for average. Does that make sense? So I wouldn't
But even
just.
in a good way or a bad way, because I know you said when you went into prison, you're like, I'm gonna do it better than what I did
Mhm,
before I went into prison. But
exactly that.
So had that
Exactly.
already changed your mind when you went, going, and when I get out, I'm gonna do better for myself? Or
Hmm.
what was the turning point there? Because I know you said you were unfazed when you got sentenced.
Hmm.
Where was the turning point? Because that's the question. What was the turning point that I've
Do you
got?
want to know what the, do you want to do you want to actually know what the turning point is? Yeah. Um,
Or a combination of things.
this this sounds a bit mad, but yeah, that like the guy telling me that I was skinny or whatever was maybe like one thing out of like numerous things, but
I think that
I
can be a big thing though. There's things like that that trigger people,
100%,
and that will lead
100%.
you onto a different path. But yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
I just need to say that.
I I've spoken about this before, but I remember like I could never sleep when I was in there. Like I'm a person that needs silence, and you got to think you're in a place full of nutters, crazy people, people that sleep all day, so they're up all night talking to each other out the window, listening to music and whatever. Um, and I remember I just couldn't ever sleep because there was lights on as well. And I remember going into the library and without looking for any specific book in particular, I saw a book on a shelf called The Beauty of Sleep. And I just grabbed it from the library, started reading it, and it spoke a lot about meditation. Obviously, before that, I'd never spoke to anyone or knew what meditation was. Like meditation for me was like from what I believed was just something like Buddhas and monks doing that in monasteries. So I'm thinking this is a bit weird, but literally I've not slept for months. Let me try read it. So I've read it, spoke about meditation, and I remember I started getting really into it. And there's this one meditation I'd read all the time, and the one that I practiced the most. And I remember I did it one time because I did notice my sleep starting to get better, and then I meditated once. Not like I've probably been practicing it for like a few weeks or few months. And every hour in prison, what they'll do is they'll send an officer around the whole wing and just open everyone's flaps just to see what everyone's up to, or no one's died or killed themselves or whatever, or on phones. And he came round once, and I sat on my bed with my legs crossed, hands on my thighs, and
Kind
he
of like
came,
a film.
yeah, and he came back around, and I was still in the same position an hour later. Um, and I remember like that specific meditation. I felt things in my body that I'd never felt before, like just weird sensations. And it's almost like I unlocked a certain part of my brain where you're able to hear a voice from your higher self telling you that, like guiding you, sort of thing. This is what you're destined to do. This like start behaving like this and like remove this out of your life. You're gonna whatever. And I remember just opening my eyes and something in my mind said, from now on, things are never going to be the same for you again. And then from there, I remember just the next day I'm talking to people in ways that I'd never spoke to people before. I'm talking about I didn't know nothing about mindset or visualization or manifestation. All of a sudden, it's like that meditation unlocked stuff in my brain that helped me understand what these things were without ever even being told it or knowing it. And then I started practicing all the other things, visualization and manifestation and looking at people and studying people and that I looked up to, but positive people now thinking, right, I need to be more like that. Why am I idolizing these people that are the same as what I don't want my life to be like?
Hmm.
So I started looking at more positive role models. And I remember my family would come see me, and it was around that point that they knew from the way I was talking that, yeah, do you know what? He's actually changed, but without being able to say how or what was different. Because I looked the same, but yeah, they could just tell that something had just changed in me. Then even though I was still in that negative circumstance, they could see that like they were coming in a lot more happier now because they knew that, yeah, this guy isn't going to be the same person as he was when he came out. Does that make sense? When he went in, sorry. And I
How,
would say that was the pinpoint moment where I knew things are going to be different.
all down to sleep. So if you didn't pick up that book,
100%.
library, interesting, mate. And how far along in your sentence were you when you had got that realization? Was it a few months?
But I'd say it was like, oh, it was more than a year. It was over a year. Probably, yeah, like a year and a bit, I'd say.
How was the first year? Were you just mucking about? Was it just
First year, I was still like, and this is what I say, and again, this is going to seem pretty weird, yeah, but if you think about it, the length of time that I spent in Africa is pretty much the exact same length of time as I did in prison. So
what was harder? Was prison hard?
both the same amount of hard. Like
Yeah.
people always say this, yeah. People make out that yeah, prison's easy. It's Butlins. The ones that say that are the ones who have it the hardest, but they want to come out and make out that yeah, it's easy. I never had a hard time. I never had problems, like the typical problems that you see people getting in altercations and whatnot. But first of all, the boredom is crazy. Where I was, you're in one place 23 hours of the day with nothing but shit TV to watch, nothing to do. You can't leave. You're only getting out when they say, right, cool, you're allowed out for an hour. Uh, you're not seeing your family. If you've got a girlfriend, you're not seeing your girlfriend. You can't see your friends. You can't go for a walk down the street. You can't get no fresh air. In the winter, it's freezing. In the summer, it's boiling. There's all those situations that are just out of your control. And who wants to not be in control of their life? Do you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
But there was a point where I was in there with so many people that I knew from the outside as well, people who went to school with and stuff. We laughed every day. But then at the end of that, you still have to go back and be by yourself for hours on end. But uh, I've gone off tangent. I forgot your question.
No, I was, I was saying was it difficult being in there?
Oh yeah, compared to Africa, no, it wasn't, but it was for those reasons.
Yeah,
Like, who wants to be in there? No one.
yeah.
But at that age, I had nothing to lose, so I didn't really care. But now I've got things to lose. I'd never want to put myself in a predicament where that could be a likely outcome, and that's the difference now.
How long were you in for?
I got sentenced to 6 years, technically 8 because I got done for two things at the same time. But yeah, but I did half of that, obviously.
Is that from good behavior?
Not necessarily from good behavior. I did end up having to do a little bit longer than half because not because I was like getting in trouble or I was like causing problems, but my problem was I'd always get caught with phones.
When you're not allowed,
Wanted
obviously.
to weren't allowed them, obviously, but yeah, they were the only things I got like misdemeanors for. Was getting caught with mobile phones, but otherwise, apart from that, I was pretty well behaved. But what happens is when you do half the sentence, you then come out and do the other half on what's called a license. So I've actually not long been off that. Um, but again, most people see that as like another obstacle that they have to navigate when they come out. So you come out, but you're still not truly free. You still have to go to meetings. You're not allowed to travel. It's only been the last 3 years I've been allowed out of the country. Um, but obviously now that's why I'm going. I'm going away as much as I can to
Yeah.
make up the time that I wasn't allowed to travel.
So,
Um,
so you only did 3 and a bit years, and you got out what 6 years ago now?
yeah, yeah, 2018 I came out,
Nice, mate. All right.
end of
Well,
2018. But
then we went into
again,
lockdown 2 years later.
literally, that's what happened. That's literally what happened. We were in, yeah, literally, I was out for a year and a bit, and then we're in a lockdown. No good.
So you got to laugh if you don't laugh. I was gonna yeah. So you'd moved on. You'd now done your sentence. You'd finished. You got over it. You're in. You're out. My next question was about like what did fitness do to help you get over that period of time? But you kind of already answered that with the book, how a few things were the light bulb moment for yourself. And what have you done since you've been out? What's it been like? Like what have you done with your life since you've become this new person?
So do you want to know something crazy? And again, why I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason, even if it's a bad thing. Yeah, even if you come across people that don't treat you right or hurt you or whatever, whether it's physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of those things are happening for a reason. And even though it might be tough in that moment, it's happening to you for a reason, for you to learn something, for you to develop thicker skin, whatever the reason might be. And that's how I view any hard thing that might come my way. So, uh, where it started was I knew I wanted to come out and do something. I knew I wanted to be a personal trainer, but they didn't teach personal training courses in there. So, and this is where everything comes back around full circle. So, I remember I didn't have a plan, didn't have a job lined up, knew I wanted to work in a gym, knew I'd never want to have like a normal job. And a few weeks before I came home, I called my brother and a boy we grew up with in the same street as us, who, funny enough, went the other way and studied law and became a probation officer, who
Wow.
was one of my best mates as kids. We've grown up. He's gone in that direction. I've gone in that direction, like totally different ways. And my brother bumped into him, and I hadn't seen him for a good 10 years while he was off at uni studying, doing all that. And then called my brother one day randomly, and he goes, "Oh, so weird you've just called. I just bumped into so and so, and he's a probation officer, but he's also doing some work in the fitness industry. And I showed him a picture of you and what you're looking like in there, because you're hitting the gym." And he said, "Oh, tell him when he gets out, if he wants me to help him with like getting into what I'm doing, I'll help him." And this was 2 weeks before I came home. Um, and I remember taking like 3 or 4 of my mates into my cell and saying, "Mate, my brother's just bumped into this guy who does this like multi-level marketing stuff to do with fitness and stuff." And I was explaining the numbers and the figures, and I'm like, "Man, I'm gonna do that when I get out." And when I got out, literally met him straight away, and that's what got me into like selling supplements, obviously like health supplements, fitness supplements, doing fitness classes and stuff as well, going to events where instantly I was surrounded by people that were the total opposite of the people I was surrounded by before, that might have been like a negative influence on me. And I might have also been the person that has a negative influence on other people as well. But not straight away, I'm surrounded by better people. I'm going to events where they're teaching you about mindset, um, selling supplements, doing things I'd never done before, doing things that were giving me the confidence to be able to be around normal people, because my life before that, I'd never been around no one normal. I'd never had a job. I was just chilling with people that were just the exact same as me. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
So, and why I say it comes back full circle is because me and this same guy are the ones that are running the academy together, teaching personal training courses.
Ah,
Um,
it all happens for a reason, doesn't it, mate?
so it all happens for a reason. And then my way of sort of being able to give back through learning through my experiences and um, helping other people that are maybe just stuck in a cycle and pattern of behavior that they know isn't them, or knowing that they want to do better, they just don't know what to do. I'm in contact with old probation and people in like the criminal justice system that are helping me be able to get our academy funded to help people coming out of prison that want to become personal trainers.
Wow, nice.
So that's why I'll talk about why everything happens for a reason, how things come back full circle. I was once that person looking for a way that I would be able to uh, get into the industry without, but there wasn't much help there to be able to get you qualifications and work. And now we're looking to see how we're then now able to be that sort of like pillar that people will go to that want to make that change in
So
their life.
moving from where they were before to use health, fitness, training to then
Exactly
better
that.
their life. Um,
Because I truly believe that that's what changed me and my life and my mindset. I want to now also help other people do the same. So again, going back to it again, why everything happens for a reason. If I hadn't gone through that whole experience, me and you wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
mm.
Um, and there's still thousands of other people going through the same things, that all they need is that one person or that one thing or that one opportunity to be able to change your life. And think, if you can change one person's life, how many other people's lives you're impacting through one person being able to change theirs. And
Exactly.
that's sort of like our view on it. And that's why we went into the teaching route, because with the coaching side of things, yeah, it's really nice to be able to help one person change their body or their mindset or their physique or their outlook on life or whatever. But we're limited with the amount of people that we can impact each day. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Teach people the skills, the knowledge, um, what it takes to be able to teach more people indirectly through us teaching one person that can then go off and help 100 more people. That's how we're impacting lives, through teaching others.
And you're saying with the health and fitness review is what saved you from who you were before to who you are now.
100%. 100%. And that's why I'm so dedicated to fitness, because I feel like I do owe my life to it. When if there's ever been a period where I start slacking when it comes to fitness or the eating side of things, I feel like I'm letting that person down inside me. That's like, I'm the one that I'm the thing that's saved you. Why are you neglecting me now?
Hmm.
And, and I think that all the time. I genuinely do. And I'm like, no, I need to get back to it, because that was my saving grace. Does that make sense?
100%, mate. And where do you think you'd be? Where do you think you would be if you didn't pick up that book or you didn't start going down the fitness route? That guy didn't say you looked skinny. You didn't have these meditation times.
Do you want to know something? There's I would say, like, and again, this isn't to make me, like, I'm not saying this from a point of view that I think I'm better than anyone, or I think I'm doing better than anyone, because we're all on our own journeys. Yeah, you got people that have been handed everything from birth, but they still don't have the self-worth to know that they've got the world. Does that make sense? So we've all got different mountains to climb. Yeah, everyone's on different journeys. Everyone's growth is going to happen at a different time, and I believe that we will all have our time. But I would say there's only, out of every single person that I used to hang around with back then, there's only one person that's not in prison, not doing drugs, not like a not fucked up.
Yeah.
Everyone that was around me is, in one way or another. Like, mentally, they're all doing weird things. And when I see them, or if I drive past them, or if I see them around, I look at them and I'm like, fucking hell, that would literally be me if I didn't like go down that path. Like, yeah, it was just before I started doing drugs a lot more, getting like, obviously it's not good to talk about, but getting a lot more violent, doing worse things. Um, so it happened at the right time, but God knows where I would be. I'd probably be still drinking. I was, I would say I was an alcoholic. Like, I'd drink for 4 weeks on end every single day,
Hmm.
doing drugs most days, smoking weed every day. So who knows? I might be
You could be
effed,
dead.
could be dead, might be effed up mentally, and be struggling with poor mental health right now, because you already know, when you're doing drugs every day, that's not going to be any good for your mind, for your brain, for your mental health, your clarity. Uh, who knows? Could have health problems. Could be in prison for doing something worse.
Hmm.
So
Prison's kind of saved you as well, then. It's one of those stories where you hear people that have gone to prison and that's actually been the saving grace to their life because of look how you've turned out now. You've got out, you've done good, you've become a coach, you're coaching people for better health and fitness, for a better life. So
100%.
that was a,
And there's there's a he's not a client anymore, but we've still stayed friends. And I try to like mentor him, like I see him like a little brother. And he has all these problems going on in his life, and I try to like I say, mentor him and speak to him most days, and try to just talk to him and coach him and talk to him about his mindset. And I'm like, bro, as hard as it is, what you need, because it's not like people have it's not like most people who are stuck in patterns of repeated behavior that they don't even want to be in, but they just can't help but always press that reset button when things start to go well or they start to do well. And then before you know it, 3 weeks later, they're back doing the old stuff. So those people, it's not like they can just take themselves off to go sit somewhere for a year to try get out of those patterns. Does that make sense? But I remember saying last week to this boy that I mentor that, bro, as tough as it is, be by yourself, feel that loneliness, feel that pain, leave, like, don't talk to that girl, that's no good. Don't go meet your mates that are no good. And trust me, that's where you're going to discover that strength, but people can't do it.
Spot on, mate. And then I think what I would like to finish off nearly on is two last questions. Obviously, we've mentioned that things happen for a reason, but what would you say to your younger self now you know what you know? Or would you say anything because you're at this point now? But if there's anything that you could have told your younger self, what would it be?
Do you know what? Yeah. When I was younger, I didn't have a bad mindset because before transitioning into that teen that was like going out all the time, I was I was like 10 years old and I'd go for runs by myself, 11, 12, 13 years old. And even into like my later teens, I still had that, even though I was still doing some of the wrong things, but I'd still do push-ups and sit-ups at home. I'd still go take a bag of footballs on my own in the winter and kick a ball around on my own and like run 10Ks and laps of the field on my own, which most kids at that age weren't doing. But I wouldn't say I know like where like change, but I don't know if I'd actually tell myself anything because something inside me knew that that little period of my life was just for then, but not forever.
Mhm.
And there might be things I did that I regret, but I don't regret having to go through anything at the same time.
I respect that because
Does that make
you've
sense?
become the man that you are today from all the experiences that you've gone through.
That's it. But the only thing thinking about it that I uh, I would say to myself would be, and this is probably to most people as well, is like watch who your friends are, because your parent, when you think about it, like my mum, she'd only have to lay eyes on someone once to see that they're not your mate or they're not a good person. Don't be around them. She might never even spoken to that person or even met them, and she'll know, yeah, those friends are no good. Um, and I would say a lot of the times I got into trouble were because of my friends and not even for anything to do with me. And then when you land yourself in a situation, those friends are nowhere to be seen, or they'll be the first people to take your money if it was laying around, or steal your phone if it was laying around, or do stuff with your girlfriend, whatever. Does that make sense? So I would say like that would be the only advice I would have said to give myself is I wish I stayed around like better friends, if that makes sense.
That would literally was going to ask my second. That was my last question was, what would you tell someone who's been in a similar situation as yourself or who's going through shit times or are on the wrong path and are on the streets, drugs, illegal stuff, whatever stuff they're doing?
About like this, yeah, a real friend. We'll use someone taking drugs as an example, yeah. This kid that I'm mentoring, I'd say, get around me, stop taking drugs. I want to see you do better. I don't want to see you going through these times and points of like depression and anxiety because of the drugs you've been on. But that same person will go off with people that they think are their friends that are saying, come meet us and we'll do this together. We'll do this bag together or go get like
Yeah.
smashed together. And those aren't your friends. So they might not necessarily do something bad to you, but they're still not influencing your life in a positive way at the same time. And those are what I'd say are like they're not your friends. If they know that you're struggling already, why are you calling me to come out and do something that's going to make me feel worse? Why are you calling me to make me come out and do something that's going to um, do something that's going to land me in a situation where I could lose time out of my life, for example. Does that make sense? And I think most people, especially younger kids, they'll keep people around them that are no good until they realize when it's too late, or they'll do something for someone that won't do the same for them, and they'll be the ones taking the consequences, yet the other person's still out free doing whatever.
Is that what it's like being in like a gang, like back in the day? Like I don't know, I didn't ask that question before, but I don't know if you were part of gang or like whatever it was.
No, I was never a gangster. No, I was never a gang member. Don't worry.
Well, I say gangs, but like
I guess
a group of fellas, that are up to no good, pretty much.
yeah, you could say that, yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And is that what your friends were like back in the day as well? Do you reckon that's what they were like? Just wanting you to get out?
Yeah, 100%. And this is what made me realize it, because the amount of situations I got in for my friends or did things for my friends, and then when you're in that situation, no one's writing to you, no one's like helping you out with money, no one's making sure your family's all right. They're all like, does that make sense?
Mm.
They just forget about you just as quick. And I remember hearing that some of those people were, again, not to like make anyone feel bad about it or mention any names or something, but I remember hearing people saying, "Oh, he's changed now. He thinks he's better than us, or he thinks he's doing better than all of us." And I'm like, the only reason you're mad is because like no one
I
was
am
there.
doing better.
Yeah, like no one was there for me. So why shouldn't, now that I'm home, why am I going to call you? Why am I going to message you back? Why am I going to like want to come meet you? No, I don't want to come meet you. And like decided to make better friends that would actually be there for you, that are that person that wants to see you on a better path, that is going to tell you stay away from those people because they know that they're no good or aren't going to be there for you the next time you're in that situation.
Mm.
Does that make sense? So
Yeah, that's why I asked, because I feel like you were talking from experience there with the friends and stuff like that. So yeah, mate. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is Phil's podcast life story. You can see now where he was before, where he is now, how he's got out of it. Has become a very successful coach, successful business in terms of PTing as well, and bringing PTs in. So if I had a hat on, I would take it off to you, Mr. Philip. Mr. Philip. So thank you for that and opening up on this podcast, a very unique podcast today, which I thought would be very interesting on my behalf as well, to find out more about where Phil came from, what his upbringing was like, and and how he's got to the position he is now. So thank you, Phil. Appreciate it as always.
and yeah, like I said, I never speak about this stuff because I don't. It's not that I don't like reliving that part, but I never want to look as if like I'm glorifying that kind of side of my life from before, if that makes sense. But that's why I was quite hesitant to talk about it. But if there's one thing that you take away from it, that's why I sort of like agree to it, because I'm like, if it can inspire one person watching to think, yeah, do you know what? And even if you're in a different circumstance, but still going through any hard times, might not necessarily be experiencing the same things that I did, but if it can inspire you and tell you and help you tell yourself that, yeah, do you know what? If they can get themselves from that, I can get myself from this. Then that was why we wanted to sort of do this and help you understand that whatever it is you're going through, from my point of view, fitness will change that.
Mm-hmm.
So get yourself in that gym, start there, start doing little things daily that are going to help you just develop your body and then your mind.
If anyone's going through the same struggles, reach out to Phil. He's been there. If anyone's had a similar experience as Phil or is going through that, I'm sure his messages will be open. So yeah, thank you for everything, mate. Thank you for taking this podcast and agreeing to it. I know obviously you were a bit hesitant at first, but yeah, I think this has got a real understanding of who you are and what you can do when you put your mind to it and do change your life. So I appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, bro.
And thank you everyone for listening. And we will see you guys, or listen or see you guys on the next one.